This guy is a weak high school loser who gets bullied and dumped by the queen, but then he unlocks powerful skill and goes to take his revenge. And on the way, he finds a hot elf princess that wants him so bad, just like how Amaru wants her coke.
One day, a boy named Tuka woke up from his nap after dreaming about his painful past of being subjected to domestic violence by his stepfather as a child in front of his mother, who did not care about him.
We do not care.
And found one of his classmates bullying a girl named Ayaka. The bully Shogo took Ayaka's novel that she was reading on the bus ride and continued to make fun of her in front of everyone, including those who weren't paying attention to the scenery outside, even though Ayaka was the class president. Tuka thought that if he tried to stop Shogo, he would look cool in front of everyone, but he considers himself to be just air that doesn't make any impact on anything, and no one will pay him the slightest bit of attention. Ayaka kept trying to take her novel from him, but he refused and told her that he would give her the novel in exchange for her giving him Rand's information. Shogo was surprised by his sudden behavior and burst out laughing, bullying two people at once instead of one, until Takudo, one of the elite students sitting in the back of the bus, intervened and told him to give her back her novel. Shogo suggested that they pass the time by bullying Tuka, but Takudo refused and said that he didn't care about him, but that he should retell the story to Ayaka because he was disgusted by his bullying. Shogo then sits in his seat and starts bullying Tomohiro, who sits in the seat directly in front of him, and asks him why he ignores it and doesn't take the initiative to do something instead of the useless Tuka. The bus was quiet for a while until everyone was surprised to find that they had teleported to an unknown location and that the bus had disappeared. They looked around for any clue or sign to tell them where they were. Then they were surprised by the appearance of the goddess Vicious to welcome them to her world as heroes. Then she told them that she had summoned them from their world and that they were now in the kingdom of Alien to defeat the evil forces known as the Great Demon Empire, and it is recognized in this world that the evil forces appear at intervals, and each time they must summon heroes from another world to overcome them. Unfortunately for them, they were chosen 200 years after the last defeat of the evil forces, but none of them could understand it. Some thought they were in a dream or dead, they couldn't find their luggage, and their phones didn't work in this place. Tuka tried to wake himself up and pinched himself to wake up, but to no avail, while Takudo went along with it and asked Vicious what would happen if they refused to help her defeat the forces of evil, and she replied that none of them would return to their world again, as she would need the essence of the Demon King to perform a reverse summoning and return them to their world. Then she added that there are two ways to get the essence, either to get the Demon King's heart or to take the essence that is released when he is defeated and put it inside a certain necklace, at which point Shogo revolted and told her that they had nothing to do with what was happening here. Ayaka was curious if Vicious was sure she was choosing the right people to save her world, since they were just high school students with no special abilities. Vicious said that they all have powers that other humans don't have. She then brought in a scrawny prisoner, placed him in front of a three-eyed monster, made them watch the monster eat him, and then burned him in front of them at the end to make sure they were in another world altogether. She then brought out the magic test crystal and asked them to touch the crystal in order to measure their strength. Each student began to touch the crystal and saw it shine with different brightness and color with each student until Takudo's turn came, and they were surprised when he caused the crystal to shatter from the force of his strength. When he wondered if this was a good sign, Vicious told him that he had become the S rank as the strongest hero so far, while Shogo was ranked A. The students continued to measure their strength, and it was fun for them and for Vicious, who had several S rank heroes, until Tuka's turn came, and when he touched the crystal, he found that it glowed purple, and its light was dimmer than the rest of his classmates. Vicious asked the next student to come forward to measure his strength, ignoring Tuka's result, but he was not bothered by it, as he was used to people ignoring him in his original world until he became like air. Afterward, Tomohiro measured his strength and turned out to be the dark hero known as the strongest of all, which made him feel proud and that his time had come to shine among everyone else at last. Then everyone checked their stats through the condition, and Tuka found that his numbers were too low to get into a fight with an insect. After a while, Shogo began to get bored with Vicious' constant chatter and explanations of everything around them, and when Tamatsu scolded him, he told him that he was just a D-class champion and had no right to talk to an A-class champion like that. Tuka is surprised when Vicious asks him to stand in a certain area downstairs, and the guards start pushing him to move. Then she tells him that his strength makes him ranked E, the lowest of all heroes, and because low-ranked heroes are always a hindrance to the rest of them, she decides to get rid of him. She then added that she would give him a chance to prove himself before he died, and decided to take him to certain ruins to face the monsters. If he survived and resurfaced, he would become one of the heroes who would save the world and earn the right to live freely. Tuka felt confused by what was suddenly happening around him, and that he would be banished alone to the ruins where monsters and strange creatures existed. He thought to save himself from this situation and told her that that he had a unique skill, but was shocked to find her response that his skill was useless in this world and had a low success rate against even the weakest monsters, and he wondered why she had summoned him in the first place. Vicious continued to tear down his morale with her words about his poor stats and that he was just scum who would be a hindrance in their way of defeating the Demon King. His classmates began to make fun of him and told him to end it quickly, move to the ruins and stop acting so pathetic. Then Tomohiro approached him and patted him on the shoulder, and he remembered when they used to help each other in the past when one of them was bullied and beaten up. But when he said his first name without nicknames, he scolded him and ordered him to show some respect for his seniors, and he became no different from the rest after possessing a power he dared not dream of. Then Vicious began the rite of passage and gave him a pathetic leather pouch as a unique tool to match his 0 power and told him that the jewel in it would glow when he poured his magic into it. Before she could do anything, they were all surprised when Ayaka objected to his exile as a classmate, so Vicious attacked her without hesitation, knocking her unconscious, and then returned to complete the transition ritual, at which point Tuka became angry and decided to use his skill to attack her. Vicious didn't bother to block his futile attack and told him that his meager skills would be useless against a goddess like her, as she has a constantly activated protective barrier. Takuto cast a spell to make sure he could use his skills, while the others continued to stare at Tuka with looks of ridicule and disdain, making him feel ashamed of himself. And then he remembered when he was crying in the classroom. His friend told him not to try to restrain himself and pretend to be harmless, because that's not who he really is. Then he raised his head and told him to show them who he really is, and Tuka vowed to return from hell to take revenge on the goddess who humiliated him. After he reached the ruins, he poured his magic into the jewel of the leather bag to illuminate the place a little and found himself in the middle of many skeletal corpses, and when he felt that something was wrong in these ruins, he was surprised by a sudden attack from one of the monsters, but he managed to dodge it in time. Then he began to run as fast as he could, feeling panic because he was unable to defend himself. Then he thought for a second that he was not afraid, but rather frustrated to be sacrificed so easily, and when he stumbled on his way and the monster became close to him, he felt that he would die, so he decided to use any skill he had, and was surprised that he succeeded in immobilizing the monster for some time. Tuka continued to run, feeling lucky to have survived until this moment, but soon he found another monster waiting for him and began to approach him, so he used the paralysis ability and found that it worked again, and he realized that he may have special skills and abilities that no one in this world has noticed. Then he checked his stats and found that he had only 1 mana point left, so he decided to use the poison on the monster in front of him and began to bleed from all over his body, and unfortunately the first monster regained its ability to move after his mana ran out, and Tuka ended up trapped between the two monsters and became standing between them in the hope that someone would come to save him. But when he remembered the reactions of his colleagues towards him while being exiled, he decided to rely on himself and not wait for help from others and fight to survive. Toka tries to use the paralyze ability again on the monster he left behind, but finds that he can't use the same skill consistently on a particular monster, so he decides to use the sleep ability and succeeds in making the monster temporarily unconscious. Then he began to feel tired due to running out of mana and soon found a group of monsters coming towards him. He decided to take a risk and attack them despite running out of mana, and although he succeeded in mobilizing some of them, their number continued to increase. As he continued to fight for his life, his strength began to fail and he felt he had reached his limit. When he decided to make his last attack before he died, he was surprised to find that his level had been raised to 258, thus raising all his stats and regenerating his mana points. Then he decided to continue fighting after realizing that his stats had skyrocketed after he managed to kill one of the monsters, and while immobilizing the monsters, he discovered that he could attack more than one monster at a time and became convinced that he could survive the ruins of exile and return to the surface of the earth again. So he decided to treat the monsters of the ruins as a primary source of gaining experience points and improving his level, and found that he increased the level of any ability he used on more than one monster. After examining his condition, he found that his stats had increased too much and decided to pay attention to his mana points and try to preserve them as much as possible to be able to use his abilities. And when he caused the death of another monster, his level increased to 277. As time went on, he continued to increase his stats, killing monsters and using his skills better and better until he reached level 500 and was surprised to see the monsters running away from him, so he looked around to find usable tools. After that, Tuka decided to go looking for food and water around, but he found nothing but monsters and decaying corpses, so he had to wait for his poison to wear off and eat them, but he couldn't stand their sour taste. Tuka lay next to the bodies, thinking that the ruins are a place created to destroy all those who are exiled there, which makes the lack of food and drink logical. Then he noticed that the color of his leather pouch had changed and its size had become heavier, so he searched inside and was surprised to find food and drink inside, so he did not hesitate to eat them. A few days later, Tuka sat on top of the ruins after the scene looked like a massacre that he had caused, and he felt that he was starting to dehumanize himself, and he remembered remembered when he was young, when his uncle and aunt came to take him and gave him the stability and warmth that he lacked in his family's home. He then compared it to his current situation and felt no remorse for taking so many lives, and decided to accept himself as he was without any burdens, and continued to crush the monsters in his path and increase his stats. After that, he arrived somewhere inside the ruins and felt that the atmosphere was somewhat different around him, and when he entered one of the rooms, he found two corpses holding hands and realized that they had come this far and decided to accept their death without resistance. Then he found a bunch of jewels in their luggage, so he decided to take them in case he needed them when he reached the surface, and when he entered another room, he noticed that the door crystal consumed a large amount of his mana to open it, and found a body in the center of the room with an envelope, and Tuka discovered that he could read the language of this world and found that the body belonged to a person named Anglin, who was a former dark champion, and then he remembered that this power Tomohiro received in the power meter. He continued to read the message and realized that Vicious had sent him to the ruins out of necessity, and before he died, he wanted to trust the person who found his body with something he could get his hands on. Tuka was angered by Vicious' actions and came to believe that she is more evil than the demon she wants them to defeat, and admitted that he is no different from her in that he seeks revenge and doesn't care about saving the world. Then he was surprised that Anglin was able to find the complete book of forbidden arts and found that it contains recipes for medicines and magical tools that may benefit him later, so he decided to keep it. Then he found a scroll on forbidden magic, but he could not read it and thought that if he could decipher and use it, he might succeed in overcoming Vicious, and when he continued reading the book, he found a warning from an entity known as the Soul Eater and was shocked to learn that he was the cause of the death of all the corpses in the place. Tuka continued his way inside the place cautiously until he found a large door with a blue lock. He hoped that the door would lead him to the roof so that he could escape before the Soul Eater found him, but he soon found a statue in the form of a human face with a white gem in the center of its forehead. When he tried to use one of his abilities, a laser came out of the statue and directly attacked his hand. Tuka tied his hand with a cloth to stop the bleeding and thought of a solution to get the gem without getting hurt after realizing that this face is the Soul Eater. Then he was surprised when the Soul Eater came out from behind the walls on his own and started approaching him. He realized that this would be his last fight before he managed to get to the surface and decided to run for his life. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl was outside the ruins after she arrived there by accident and decided to wait for someone near the gate. On the other side, Tuka finds the Soul Eater spewing a liquid containing the corpses of ancient monsters. He realizes that they were sent to the ruins to get rid of them and deliberately brings them out to him to show him how they died and test his reaction. Without warning, the Soul Eater let out a loud scream that he couldn't bear. He decided to go on the offensive and immobilize the corpses, but hesitated to use poison on them even though they were already dead, and he felt tremendous pressure due to the Soul Eater's siege. After he refused to use his ability on the corpses and continued to retreat, he found that the Spirit Eater enjoyed torturing him psychologically and kept summoning more and more corpses until he was trapped, crying in fear and begging for someone to save him from this situation. But soon he realizes that he is close to the face of the Soul Eater and decides to immobilize him to prevent him from controlling the bodies for some time. The Soul Eater is shocked when Tuka tells him that everything he has done so far was an act to force him to ensure victory and underestimate him until he reaches the stage of overconfidence and succeeds in eliminating his last opponent in the ruins, and realizes that the reason for his survival is his decision to return to his real personality and stop playing the role of the kind and friendly Tuka, and continues torturing the Soul Eater until he completely fades away. At that moment, the ghosts of the dead heroes appear in front of him and congratulate him on his success in getting out of the ruins alive. Then Anglin approaches him and asks him to get rid of Vicious for them all. Then Tuka takes the Soul Eater jewel, intending to crush Vicious upon seeing it, and when he puts it in the door, he finally sees sunlight and returns to the surface of the earth. Meanwhile, the others were in the woods killing monsters to earn experience points, and while everyone was enjoying their time of bloodshed, Kobedo was trembling in fear and couldn't get rid of a single monster. Asagi approached her and told her not to wander off while fighting or she would die, then added that over time their class would split into different groups and squads due to the ranking system, and that she intended to include her in her group, and began to encourage her to be strong in order to defeat the Demon King and gain high status when they returned to the real world. She then ordered her followers to bring the dying monster and told her to finish it off, or she would be disposed of as the goddess had done to Tuka. Kobedo picked up her sword and rushed to stab the monster and take its life. Asagi then announced that she was joining her group, while Kobedo remembered how kind and peaceful Tuka had been in the past and continued to cry. On the other side, Ayaka regained consciousness and remembered what happened at the temple when Tuka was banished, so she decided to meet with Vicious, who pretended to be sad about having to banish Tuka based on the rituals of the alien kingdom that had been established over the years. Ayaka was surprised to learn that the ritual was still in effect, as all of her classmates went out into the woods to see if they had the guts to take on monsters, and many of them were eliminated without hesitation. Ayaka was furious and told Vicious that she didn't like the way she was handling the selection of heroes. Vicious told her that she could tolerate a slight difference of opinion, but she was charged with following the kingdom's policy. Ayaka suggested that she try her best to make up for the students who failed to pass the test in exchange for a pardon. Vicious agreed to her suggestion and offered to shake hands with her and apologized for punching her earlier. After Ayaka left, she marveled at the coldness of her hands. Meanwhile, the mysterious girl was running through the dark forest to escape the holy guards chasing her. Jiaobane suggested that they take her back and stop chasing her, but Ashura insisted on having a little fun catching up with her. Saras told them that they should make sure to teach her a lesson for trying to escape. While on the other side, Tuka was checking his stats after coming out of the ruins and found that his mana points had become exceptional and that he could control his abilities better after upgrading them. He decided to look for a nearby monster to try out his new tricks and headed towards the dark forest to look for a sword. But he noticed a nearby noise in the grass and realized that it was a group of small slimes, and noticed that they were all gathering around one slime and harassing him. He decided to help the little slime and try his new abilities and learn how to cancel the effect of his abilities on the opponent as if he was in a video game. Then he ordered the group of slimes to go away, and the little slime remained alone in front of him because he did not cancel the effect of paralysis on him. He then told him that he had no intention of getting rid of him and would let him leave in peace, but before that he wanted to apologize to him for his delay in helping him, and then freed him before continuing on his way. But the slime decided to follow him, and when Tuka noticed this, he realized that he wanted to stay with him, being an outcast from the rest. In the meantime, the mysterious girl named Saras manages to get away from the holy guardians at a safe distance, knowing full well that they are waiting for her strength to fail to catch her, while Tuka decides to use the slime to see what is happening behind him while he is busy reading the Forbidden Arts book. Tuka then tells the slime that he is on a journey for revenge and gives him the choice of accompanying him or leaving in peace, but the slime chooses to stay with him. So Tuka tells him that he will have to swallow his pride until he gets his revenge and decides to give him the name Pigimaru. Saras, on the other hand, continued to run until she noticed that the guards were deliberately closing the distance between them, so she decided to use the force to stop them, drawing her sword and summoning her powers to take the form of a spirit robe. Noticing Tuka's presence nearby, the maggots decided to rob him on the way, and Maggots was eager to finish him off as he wanted to try his blade on a human body. Tuka is terrified to face 4 people at once, and from his pathetic facial expression it looks like he wet his pants. But when he realizes that they are after a girl and their favorite pastime is torturing women and taking their lives, he tries to sneak past them and escape. But Maggots soon notices this and feigns fear and begs him to let him go in peace. But Maggots insisted on testing the power of his blade to tear his body apart, and when he rushed to attack him, Tuka surprised him by immobilizing him by using his ability, and then Tuka realized that his abilities are effective on humans as well, so he told the others that they are not as scary as the monsters of the ruins and described them as a group of scum. He then decided to kill them without pity, especially since they wanted to get rid of him first. He then used his poison ability on them all at once. After eliminating them and collecting their resources, Saras felt their presence suddenly disappear and thought that they might be planning something, and remained alert when she felt the presence of another person at a distance from him, although he is not strong enough, but his presence is worrying the atmosphere around her. Pigimaru appears out of nowhere, and as she focuses her attention on him to attack him, Tuka appears from behind and immobilizes her, then tells her that he sensed her intention to attack him, but he was curious to know what her aggression felt like, so he decided to keep her temporarily paralyzed so that they could talk to each other. When she asked him what his goal was, he told her that he was lost and didn't know exactly where he was and hoped that she could help him get out of here. He then decided to cancel part of his ability so that she could speak normally and apologized for not trusting her as he had been through a lot to get to this point. Saras was curious to ask him about the sacred guardians, and he told her that he took them out on his way, and she was amazed at how he was able to take out the 4 guards on his own, while Tuka discovered that she had the ability to detect lies. Saras then tells him that she is ready to answer all his questions as he is her savior, so he starts asking her questions and realizes that he is currently in a forest south of the Ulza kingdom. When he asks her about the magic scroll, she tells him that she doesn't know how to read ancient languages, but she knows someone who can help him, a taboo sorceress who lives in the land of golden-eyed monsters. Then she added that it was a tricky country in the center of the continent and that he should be careful when going there. As he was about to leave, he felt for a moment that she resembled his aunt in her honesty and pride, and said that she would be free of his magic within minutes after his departure. On his way, he notices Pigimaru is curious about his actions and tells him that he doesn't enjoy taking lives, but he will have to do it according to his own rules, and asks him to watch his back for fear that Saras will chase him after she is freed. After a while, Tuka arrived in the city of Mills, and the gatekeeper was surprised that he did not carry weapons, so he told her that he came in response to the call to conquer the ruins, and Tuka deliberately wore a hood to hide his face, so the guard allowed him to enter, while Tuka marveled at their unexpected laxity as he entered without being searched. After After that, he went to rent a room at the inn and found the innkeeper giving him an uncomfortable look. He guessed that it was because of his shabby condition, so he told him that his clothes were dirty from his long journey. And when the innkeeper saw that he had money, he began to treat him with respect and hospitality, and when he asked his name, Tuca deliberately gave him a pseudonym. In the evening, Tuca boarded his new room, and the city of Mills seemed to him a peaceful place where he did not see any suspicious behavior by people. And while wandering, he decided to look for a shop selling magic tools, but he found an adventurer's guild on his way. He then went to dinner at a tavern and seemed to enjoy his meal. He noticed that people usually spoke in loud voices, which would make it easier for him to eavesdrop whenever he wanted, and he was able to gather a lot of information from the group of drunkards sitting at the next table about the troops in the continent's country. When he returned to the inn, he decided that he had to find the taboo sorceress hiding in the land of monsters and then work on a solution to enhance Pigimaru. He realized that he could create a solution using a crushed bone from the skeleton king who resides in the ruins of the city, and remembered what the drunkards had said in the tavern about the ruins and the Marcus Club's desire to conquer it. The next day, Tuca went to the club and saw Marcus Harclay, who assigned all the mercenaries to explore the new floor he found in the ruins and will reward those who find the sleeping dragon's eye cup with 300 gold pieces, as well as a reward for any treasure they find along the way. Tuca decides to use this quest to find the bones of the King of Temples, and when it's time to register the adventurers, someone is harassing a hooded girl while the rest of the party recognizes her from her voice as Saras, who has a large bounty on her head and is known as the leader of the Knights of the Gods. Mont continues to flirt with her when he suspects she looks like Saras and tells her that he met her at a dinner party and she was very beautiful, although she treated him with disdain, to which she angrily says she doesn't remember meeting him before. He was furious and said that she still treated him the same way, which made him memorize her facial features and told everyone that she was elf from a noble family, and the news of her escape from her homeland spread. And when he dared to remove her hood to prove to everyone that she was elf through her ears, he was surprised that she had human ears and that her facial features were different. Saras introduces herself under a pseudonym and pretends to be a different person than the one Monk is talking about, and ends up being a laughingstock in front of everyone after the fuss he made, and decides to leave with a grudge against her. After that, Tuca went shopping before the mission, and on his way, Saras approached him and asked him why he was at the club. He told her that he came for the scouting mission and warned her about Monk, as he had grown to harbor a grudge against her. He noticed that she was deliberately trying to avoid interacting with others. However, he did not hesitate to ask for her help so that the merchants would not defraud him when buying tools, and offered to pay her a large sum of money, which she agreed to because she needed travel expenses and it would benefit both of them. The two of them decided to use their aliases to identify themselves, and Tuca was not bothered by this. Then they went shopping together for tools and weapons, and Saras was able to help him save a lot of money and buy equipment cheaper than expected, so he paid her well for her help. As she was about to leave, she fell into his arms, exhausted. Tuca noticed that she had swellings under her eyes and told him that she hadn't slept for several days and left quickly, so he decided to overlook it and focus on his mission. After that, he headed inside the ruins of Mills and was surprised by a group of people fleeing after seeing the bull monster, and when he appeared in front of him, he was able to eliminate him easily. And when they returned with their leader, Tuca hid from sight, and they were surprised when they saw the bull monster dead and thought that the mercenary who attacked him managed to get rid of him with a single dagger blow. He then checked his stats and noticed that he wasn't getting much experience points in the ruins, so he decided to move lightly so as not to draw attention. He overheard Monk and his followers inciting them to get rid of Saras in revenge for humiliating him in front of everyone, and vowed to feed her to the monsters once she was dead. Tuca decided to confront them directly, and when they saw that he was just a boy in their way, they decided to get rid of him. He tried to pretend to be afraid to make them feel better about themselves until he managed to paralyze them, and then he felt bad about himself because his behavior reminded him of his parents. He then decided to get rid of them without wasting time or feeling remorse, and continued his way to the new floor in the ruins, but he felt he needed to get some rest before entering the new floor, so he took a nap in one of the rooms with Pigimaru guarding him. After he woke up and continued on his way, he found a group of adventurers gathered in a suspicious manner. When he approached them, they told him that they had noticed that monsters were dying in strange ways in random places, no matter how powerful they were, and they could not identify the culprit. The leader of the Sword Tiger group, Lily, decided to withdraw the group from the exploration mission for their safety and offered to accompany them to the surface, but he insisted on continuing on his way, so they asked him to inform the rest of the adventurers. Tuca continued his way through the ruins after deliberately hiding the fact that he was the one killing the monsters, realizing that spreading the news of the monsters' suspicious deaths would work in his favor to reduce the number of adventurers in the ruins. After that, Tuca reached the room containing the dragon's eye cup, and when he approached it, he found what looked like a statue of a huge dragon, but he guessed that the thing could move, so he used the paralyzing ability just in case, and then he confirmed his guess and got rid of it effortlessly. Then he picked up the cup and was surprised when Saras entered the room and told him that she thought she would be the first to arrive after the others withdrew. He offered to take the cup if she needed it and wondered that he didn't mind giving her the cup for free, and she refused to get it for free. Before he left the room, he told her that his goal was to eliminate a monster in a secret place in the ruins and advised her to get some rest before she collapsed, but she offered to accompany him downstairs to protect him in exchange for the grail. Toka realized that she was stubborn and wouldn't let him leave without giving him something in return, so he agreed to take her with him on the condition that she wouldn't ask him for any personal details and that it would take him a full day to return to the surface and that he wouldn't mind if she wanted to return alone before then. He was curious about what she knew about monsters, and she told him that golden-eyed monsters are the perfect prey for otherworldly heroes to level up, and they don't get any points for killing other creatures. Toka then realized why he didn't get anything for eliminating the sacred guardians. She then told him that golden-eyed monsters are originally influenced by the Demon King's energy related to his essence, and some of them are able to form positive relationships with humans. Toka connects the dots and concludes that the color gold is considered a bad omen in this world, and to him it symbolizes Takuto, the cocky golden boy in his class. As they continue on their way, Saras senses another monster near them and realizes that she means Pigimaru, so he tells her that they are partners and not a threat to them. Toka decides that they should rest for a while and tells her to relax. Then he casts a sleep spell on her to help her sleep deeply, and she returns to her original form. Meanwhile, some knights are investigating the death of the Holy Guardians without a trace of a bloody battle, and Civet, the strongest human ever, realizes that this is the work of Saras and is excited to see more of her power in the future. After a while, Saras woke up and found Toka sleeping nearby, and woke up when Pigimaru moved towards her. Then they continued their way in search of the monster until they reached a certain room, and then they heard a sound approaching them strongly, so they stepped back, and soon the wall broke and a huge monster appeared through it, and they realized upon seeing it that it was the king of the temples. Saras then told him that they must destroy the silver part in the center of his chest to be able to defeat him, but they must make a plan to reach this part, as the king of the temples is so strong that the sword tigers may not have a chance against him. Toka notices the skeleton king's constant stare at Saras and realizes that he considers her to be the real danger. Saras decides to use her power and goes on the offensive, asking him to keep what he is about to see a secret and apologizing that she may not be able to protect him as the monster has exceeded her expectations. Before the monster could attack them, Saras was surprised that he was able to immobilize it without touching it, then used his poison power and finished it within seconds. After dying, he managed to get what he wanted from the bones and told Saras that he was ready to answer any questions after coming to the surface. On his way out, he noticed Pigimaru moving in a certain direction and realized there was something there. When he approached, he noticed something wrapped in a cloth, so he uncovered it, and it turned out to be a large egg, so he decided to take it home according to Pigimaru's wishes. Meanwhile, the rest of the students were suffering in the ruins after the skeleton knights appeared and attacked them mercilessly. Ayaka was skeptical that she would be able to defeat them with her current weapon and decided to buy time for the others to escape. However, Shogo and Takuto managed to finish them off easily with their superpowers, and Takuto boasted that he had reached level 24 after defeating the knights, thinking that he had reached his strongest level yet. On the other side, Saras handed the Dragon Eye Cup to the Marcus Club amidst everyone's amazement. Afterwards, she left the club and met with Tuka and told him that they would hold a ceremony for her tomorrow to give her her reward. He asked her to talk privately for a while, and they agreed to meet in his room in the evening. In the evening, Tuka was working on a slime-enhancing solution using the bones of the Skeleton King when Saras showed up on time and wondered why he wanted to hire her as his bodyguard so that she could make more money, even though she had plenty of it thanks to the Marcus Club bonus. He told her that his main goal now was to find a taboo sorceress in the land of golden-eyed monsters and wanted her to come with him. She told him that she had intended to travel to the Duchy of Onato and considered the mission suitable for her because Earth is in the same direction as the Duchy, but when she felt reluctant to accept his request, he gave her time to think and then told her that he knew her true identity after she slept in the ruins of Mills because of his ability and assured her that he had no intention of betraying her and needed her fighting abilities during his journey. She tells him that she uses the power of spirits to hide her identity, and in return she has to give up her desire to sleep, and that the reason why the Holy Guardians are chasing her is because they suddenly see her true form, making it difficult for her to travel. Toka decides to reciprocate her trust by telling her his real name and asking her to keep his name a secret, thinking that in this way he will succeed in linking her fate with him by knowing many secrets about each other. After she agreed to be his bodyguard and told him her real name, he gave her a gem as payment, but she was surprised when she saw the gem and told him that it was a blue dragon gem, which is rarely found in legendary dragons, making it worth more than the Dragon's Eye Cup. She then hesitated to take such a valuable item as payment for her work and told him that jewels should not be given away so easily, but he insisted on giving it to her and told her that she could throw it away if she didn't want it. She hesitated before telling him that she was considered a runaway and there was a lot he didn't know about her past. He told her that he wasn't trying to pry and that he just wanted her to be at her best as his guardian. She realized that he was a caring and trustworthy person. The next next day, they sat down for breakfast at a bar and people started talking about them as lovers and gossiping about them. Tuka told Saras to let them say whatever they wanted, then asked her what she knew about the forbidden magic. She told him that according to the goddess Vicious, it was an ancient spell that had been banned by her order, and he deduced that the goddess had deliberately banned it. Then Saras went to receive her prize from the Marcus Club, and they agreed to meet at noon. Then Tuka went to the forest to try the solution on Pigimaru. Afterward, Marcus Harclay gave his speech at the ceremony and told everyone that he had brought in a magician who specializes in dispelling illusions to make sure that the trophy Saras brought to the club was real. Meanwhile, Ayaka met Vicious after their battle with the Skeleton Knights. Ayaka eagerly asked about her teammate Sakura, who lost her hand during the battle, and Vicious assured her that she would heal her easily and told her that her healing spells are only used on high-ranking heroes. Asked if she plans to join Takuto's group, she says she doesn't think she can get along with him in his current state, but is surprised when Vicious calls her selfish and says that her selfishness is the reason why the B-class doesn't get along with each other. Ayaka noticed that she was feigning sadness and pity to appeal to her, but she insisted on refusing to join Takuto. She told her that this meant she was turning her back on a world seeking redemption and decided to give her the responsibility of caring for and training the students who failed to pass the test. Ayaka was surprised that she brought it up again, thinking that they had already agreed on everything. She told her that she had received a royal order a few days ago to get rid of all heroes who couldn't fight, and Ayaka realized that it had become a way to put pressure on her. On the other hand, Tuka waited for Saras for so long that he began to suspect that something had happened to her or that she had suddenly abandoned him and decided to go to find out for himself. On his way, he overheard a group of people talking about her escape to the dark forests and was surprised to see the black dragon riders flying above him. In the meantime, Saras was fleeing at full speed into the dark woods after being discovered. When she realized that the black dragon riders were approaching, she decided to confront them and use her power to get rid of them, but she had difficulty using her full power due to the ability to dispel illusions. Then she wondered why there was a dragon behind her without a rider and realized it was just bait. She rushed forward to confirm her guess and found Gizun waiting for her. He vowed to make sure she died before he left the forest and kept attacking her until she stumbled and lost her sword. Gizun saw this as the perfect opportunity to enjoy his time with her before he got rid of her, and while she was wishing she could use her full power, Tuka appeared out of nowhere and immobilized Gizun without realizing it, then used his non-lethal poison ability to hold him in place as he suffered in silence. Saras goes to him and tells him that he may be putting himself in danger by staying with her as she will be hunted by the Black Dragon Knights and wants to return what he paid her and cancel their agreement, so he gives her a bag containing all the blue dragon jewels and tells her that he still wants her to come with him. Saras is surprised when Tuka asks her to take off her clothes and finds that he has brought her another disguise and suggests that she try to convince a taboo sorceress to take her in when they find her. Saras is curious as to why he would go to such lengths for her. He replied that she reminds him of someone, even though they don't look alike, but they have the same aura, and if he leads her, he will feel as if he has abandoned his aunt. Finding that taking out the black dragon and his knight is not enough to raise his level, he decides to interrogate Gizun in exchange for his pardon. He told him that he would not get away with opposing the Black Dragon Knights, and when Saras asked him who he wanted to kill, his head was smashed with a spear before he could say a word. Then they were surprised by the arrival of the most powerful knight in the history of mankind, Civet, and Tuka felt a terrifying aura at the sight of him. When Civet landed in front of them with the 5 knights, Saras noticed that a knight was missing. Meanwhile, an old man named Ortola woke up terrified after having a nightmare about Saras and remembered that he had allowed her to escape beforehand so that Civet would not get her and begged her to disappear from this world in exchange for anything. Saras felt Ortola's call before he died, while Civet and his followers debated what to do about her until he decided to challenge her to a duel, and if she won, she would be allowed to leave in peace in order to test her full strength in a real fight. Tuka, who was frozen in fear and felt as if someone had a knife around his neck despite the distance between them, asked him to talk a little in private. When Civet asked him his name and realized he was using a pseudonym, he was interested to know the story behind it. Schweiz wondered why he was suddenly interested in Tuka and replied that he was standing in front of the 5 horsemen and was not afraid, but rather waiting for an opening to attack them, and Tuka realized that Civet's intelligence is not to be underestimated. Curious as to why he had chosen to face Saras when there were many powerful opponents worthy of facing him, such as the goddess Vicious, he told him that his hometown of Bacchus and the alien kingdom had formed close ties with each other, making him focus on the heroes who had summoned them from another world and given them the ability to reach peak strength in a short period of time, which made him focus his attention on the heroes he had summoned from another world. Tuka realizes that he has too much confidence in himself and his only desire is to face strong opponents, and Civet admits that he has lost interest in Saras and will only send her head to the Princess of Nia, and she is shocked when he tells her that she is the reason why his kingdom invaded her country. While Civet was babbling, Tuka came up with an idea to help him get out of this situation. He offered to fight Civet Civet in a duel, telling him that he was an otherworldly hero blessed by the goddess and telling him his real name. Civet was shocked by his sudden honesty, and Saras was surprised by the fact that he was a hero from another world. But Civet realized that he was sincere in what he said and warned him not to try to lie because he has the ability to recognize a lie. When he asked him why he wandered around alone, he replied that his situation is different from the rest of his colleagues, so he preferred to be independent of them by order of the goddess Vicious, as he is on another level entirely, and he did not mention the point that he is the lowest among them. Civet marveled that he was special enough to attract the attention of the goddess, and when he questioned his request, Tuka told him that he wanted him to spare them for the time being until he became stronger than he was and came to duel him and finish him off. Civet is excited when Tuka vows his death and asks him how he will get the strength to defeat him. Tuka replies that he intends to go to the land of golden-eyed monsters to get stronger and then return to Vicious and take revenge on the goddess. Civet agreed to his proposal and was curious to see how strong Tuka would become during his journey, and they agreed to meet again after a while and settle the matter between them in a fight to the death, and Civet allowed him to leave, but Tuka refused when he learned that he intended to get rid of Saras now and told him that he needed her strength to reach the land of monsters. Civet was impressed that he wanted Saras to accompany him without Vicious consent, and his followers were surprised by his decision to pardon Saras as well, provided that he disposed of her after finishing with Tuka and ordered that no one should harm them during their journey. Then they left quietly while Tuka felt victorious for his success in convincing Civet to leave them alone. Civet was shocked when he and his followers were paralyzed by the devious Tuka and told them that he did not intend to delay their fight for so long. Civet was trying to move desperately while Tuka decided to settle the matter quickly and cast a deadly poison spell on them. It was then that Tuka realized why Civet was called the strongest in the history of mankind, as this was the second time he had seen his opponent force himself to move while being paralyzed, and he thought that he should not relax his defense until he was sure he was dead. Then he saw a light emanating from the bodies of the knights and realized that it was a sign of nearby forces. Despite seeing a large number of knights flying over them, he decided to stay until he was sure that the 5 knights were dead, and Saras decided to stay with him in exchange for the blue dragon jewels. Civet tried to address the knights, ordering them to dispose of them from afar without approaching, so Tuka merged his body with Pigimaru after reinforcement and made his arms reach the knights directly and fired a paralysis spell through him, forcing them to fall. Tuka found himself unlocking new skills and was able to try them out on the dead bodies in front of him without mercy, as they were just a bunch of scum like him, and continued to torture them to death, causing his level to skyrocket. However, Civet was still alive due to his extraordinary strength and told him before he died that he had given up being a hero and had become a mere avenger. In the evening, he thanked Saras for choosing to stay with him instead of running away, then remembered that the dragons the 5 horsemen rode were different in size from other dragons, and Saras was surprised when he mentioned that he had already defeated the conqueror of heroes without knowing his identity. The next day, Ayaka was surprised that after all this time she hadn't managed to awaken any of her unique skills yet. A girl named Nyantin approached the group of heroes and told them that she would accompany them on behalf of the goddess Vicious. Shogo began to bully her and expressed his displeasure that a weak girl like her would give them orders, but he quickly fell to the ground after receiving one blow from her, and everyone was surprised at how strong and fast she moved. Then she told the others that they would return to the royal capital to start the next stage of the tests. After that, Tuka told Saras his story and told her that he intends to use everything he has gained to achieve his revenge and crush anything that gets in his way, as he no longer feels proud of himself, and Saras agreed to lend him her strength so that he can achieve his revenge. He warned her that his revenge journey will be devoid of honor, justice, and the values that she holds dear. She told him that she wants to repay him as he risked his life without thinking about anything for her several times, and he vowed inside him to pay her back for his support one day. A few days later, the guards went to check the disposal ruins and were surprised to find no sign of the monsters inside, and were shocked at the idea that one of the exiles might have gotten out of the ruins alive, but one of them denied it, as it is impossible for anyone who is exiled in the disposal ruins to survive. On the other side, Tuka went shopping and noticed a distinctive black mask. The merchant told him that it was called the Lord of the Flies and told him the story of its original owner, who managed to turn a monster island into his own fortress and defeated all the enemies who tried to invade it, which led to making himself a demon lord who was rejected by the source of evil itself. And although his army was eventually annihilated, but they are still famous for what they have done. Tuka bought the mask and decided that the role of a hero no longer suited him, and he preferred the role of a demon. He then wore the mask as a symbol and vowed to get his revenge on Vicious one day and crush her under his feet. In the kingdom of Magnar, news of the death of the 5 knights reached the White Protectorate castle, and the council members couldn't believe it until Jin told them that he had checked their bodies himself, and Vicious said that they were chasing Saras, and Jin added that he found pieces of her clothes torn and mixed with blood. Alma guessed that she might be dead by now, while Vicious was devastated by the death of the 5 horsemen, as they were her hope hope to defeat the great demon king and decided that it was time for the otherworldly heroes to play a more important role in favor of the Holy Alliance. King Falcon expressed his admiration that all nations always rely on Allion when a great evil arises, and then questioned the truth of the legend of the conqueror of the gods, which made Vicious a little upset before Ganozie changed the subject and wondered if the death of the 5 horsemen was the work of Saras, and then received news that someone in the kingdom of Ulza was claiming to be responsible for the death of the 5 horsemen. The next day, Tuca and Saras disguised themselves and continued their journey towards the land of monsters. On their way, they noticed the castle for blood sports in Ulza, and Saras told him that it is an arena where slaves and mercenaries fight each other to the death under the direction of the Duke and the Mercenary Guild for the purpose of evaluating them. After that, they went to the inn to book a room, and Saras suggested to him to book one room for both of them in order to reduce travel expenses. He reminded her that this meant that a man and a woman would be staying together in one room, and she blushed and said that she didn't mind. Then they went to dinner at the tavern and overheard some customers talking about the death of the 5 horsemen and attributed their death to Saras, and that she died fighting them, and that they were eliminated by the Ashen group who claimed to have beaten the 5 horsemen everywhere. Saras whispered to Tuca that she had heard some rumors as well about Ashen and that they worship a god of curses. Soon, 4 people with hidden faces and wearing uniforms entered the tavern and introduced themselves as Ashen's guards and ordered a table to be cleared for them. Tuca felt that they didn't look like a threat to anyone despite their arrogance, but decided to let them take care of the 5 musketeers so as not to draw attention to himself. He continued to hear rumors from customers until he heard someone talking about a taboo sorceress. He did not hesitate to go to them and ask them to tell him more about her in exchange for paying for their orders at the table. They invited him to sit with them and told him that there was someone who claimed to meet the sorceress in the royal capital and is known as the strongest fighter in Monroe. When he asked them how he could find him, they found him entering the bar and sitting at the bar, looking like a cheetah similar to King from the Tekken series of games, and they told him that this is the most powerful fighter in Monroe and her name is Eve Speed. Eve sat quietly eating her dinner until she found Tuca approaching her and inviting her to dinner at his expense and using his nickname to introduce himself. When he asked her about the taboo sorceress, she realized that he had heard the rumors about her. Then she told him that she had gone to the land of monsters but never met her. He said he was curious about her and wanted to become a scientist in the future. She warned him that the land of monsters is not a place where one can enter and come out alive. She bet he wouldn't last 3 days and advised him before she left to appreciate his life as a young man and not to take any risks. On their way to the inn, Saras told him that Eve was lying, and he realized that she did it on purpose after she revealed herself to him. And when they arrived, he remembered that he forgot to bring some food for Pigimaru, so he decided to use what he had left in the leather bag, and Saras was surprised that he had the ability to eat like them, and the 3 of them sat and ate dry bread together. Then Tuca thought that he had to find a way to convince Eve to tell him the whereabouts of the forbidden sorceress. He tried to guess if she had a certain weakness and thought he would try to lure her with money. On the other hand, Eve met a girl named Lisbeth and promised to get her out of Ulsa and asked her to hold out for a while. Meanwhile, Tuca watched Saras train and realized why Civet wanted to face her so badly, as she is very good with a sword, so he asked her to teach him a trick he can use to fight at close range. Saras felt nostalgic, as she used to train knights when she was their leader. She asked him to attack her, and when he lunged at her, she tied his hands behind his back and told him that he could use the move against opponents he didn't want to hurt. Then she realized that she was too close to him and quickly retreated. He suggested that she explain the move without applying it if she didn't want to get too close to him. They continued practicing together. After a while Saras was washing their clothes, she felt the urge to smell his clothes and realized that she liked him and felt that a part of him was merging with her. She was surprised to find him standing behind her after noticing that his clothes were gone. She feared that he might have seen her smelling his clothes, so she told him that she was washing their clothes together. After she fell asleep, Tuca sat reading the Forbidden Arts book and kept staring at Saras for a while because she seemed so nice. Then he thought that she was trying hard to be helpful by suppressing her emotions to do her job well, and he should be grateful to her, but she woke up while he was thinking, and when he told her that he couldn't sleep yet, she gave him some herbs to help him relax. He thought to try mixing her herbs with his food cube in 1 cup, but after drinking it, they discovered that Saras had used the wrong herbs, as she had put the ones that kept him awake and aroused, and he kept sweating until he decided to spend the whole night reading his book. Although he tried to distract himself by reading the book, he still couldn't get back to normal and kept staring at Saras as if he wanted to devour her until she asked him if he could resist the temptations around him. He goes to the window and tells her that he prioritizes his revenge above everything else right now, which makes him feel constrained and unable to focus on other things. Saras stands behind him, kneels down, and vows to do what she can to free him from his shackles and help her live a normal, peaceful life. The next day, they went together to gather information about Eve, and Saras found out that she was a slave before she became a fighter, and her master sold her to the owners of the Bloodsport Castle, and all she does is crush her opponents inside inside the ring and make money for her masters, and she hasn't lost a match for 3 years now. When she told him that her fight tomorrow would be the last fight of her career, he realized that she had raised enough money to buy her freedom, which would make it difficult for him to negotiate with her. She told him that she had raised enough money to free herself 2 years ago, but now she was working to free someone else, and most fighters in the blood sport died in their last fights. He wonders if this is the result of facing strong opponents, but Saras suspects it's more than that, as the Duke who runs the castle deliberately interferes in fights to put the fighters at a disadvantage, and Tuka decides to use the opportunity to his advantage. Tuka thought that the Duke might want to get rid of Eve as a strong and famous fighter to pass the torch to the next generation of warriors, and he decided to put his plan into action now and not wait until tomorrow's fight. In the evening, he went to meet Eve in an alley and asked her honestly if she had lied about not knowing where the sorceress was. He guessed that she might owe her, and when she denied it, she was surprised when Saras joined them and called her a liar. Eve thought they wanted to fight her and wondered what their goal was. Tuka said he wanted to save her because the Duke would make sure she was defeated in her last fight, and he wanted to help her because he needed the information she had about the sorceress of taboo. When he mentioned Lisbeth, he told her that he knew she had been fighting for her for the past 2 years and suggested that she kidnap her and escape before the fight. She refused, as the Duke and the mercenaries would chase them all over the continent if she didn't play by the rules and get the right to buy her freedom. Then she was surprised when Tuka suggested that she take her and hide where the forbidden sorceress lies. She said that it is impossible for anyone to reach the heart of the land of monsters, and he noticed that she spoke as if she had been there before. He offered to join forces to get there and promised to protect Lisbeth. She was intrigued by his offer, but was skeptical about his abilities. He told her that he was skilled in magic despite his appearance, which suggested that he was just a coward and weak, and confessed to her that he had defeated the King of Temples and the 5 horsemen. When he found that she didn't believe him, he used his paralyzing power on her to prove his sincerity and told her that thanks to this power he was able to defeat Sivit and his followers. And Saras showed herself clearly and told her that she was the girl they were chasing at the time. He then canceled his power over her and told her it was up to her whether she believed them or not. She told him that in any case she would have to fight her last fight tomorrow and vowed to gain her and Lisbeth's freedom by force. Tuka asks her if she really thinks that the Duke will keep his promise if she wins the last fight, as he seems to be a villain from the rumors about him, but she insists that he will keep his promise as he does after every fight, and that he is not as cruel as he thinks he is, and that she cannot trust them a few days after their first meeting. Tuka pressed her on why she had so much faith in the blood sport and that she wasn't just saying that to convince herself that everything would be okay. Before he left, he told her that they planned to leave the city in the morning and would wait near the front gate bridge in case she changed her mind. On their way to the inn, they found a shanty guard standing in front of a house with people gathered around them. They learned that the owner of the house had died from a curse for opposing their leader, Muaji. Saras was furious at their rudeness and for giving themselves the right to attack people. When she wanted to draw her sword and defend a woman being harassed by them, Tuka told her to stay put, then used his rampage power on them to force them to fight each other and went on his way. Saras then asked him if he expected Eve and Lisbeth to be free tomorrow, and he said that from what he had heard about her owner, Duke Zuan, she had no future in his presence and could have a horrible end to her life. Eve, on the other hand, thought that Zuan should feel good about her, since she had done her duty so well the whole time she was here, but she kept thinking about the doubts in her head and decided to check it out for herself. Then she sneaked into the Duke's room and eavesdropped on his conversation with one of his followers. She was surprised that Tuka's words were true and that he was planning to kill her in the fight tomorrow. When his follower asked him about Lisbeth, he decided to adopt her in the hope that she would become a beautiful woman one day and train her, and when he got tired of her, he would sell her to a brothel in the future. Eve was furious at his despicable intentions towards them, and when she returned to her room, she found Muaji stopping her to wish her luck for tomorrow's fight, so she continued on her way, thinking about saving Lisbeth in any way she could. A few hours later, Eve went to the place Tuka had described to her. He was surprised that she came sooner than he expected, but he realized that she had changed her mind and decided to cooperate with them, and told them that she had conditions in exchange for telling them the location of the taboo sorceress. In the meantime, Lisbeth was working late cleaning the bar, and the bar owner scolded her for her slow work, while a customer tried to molest her, and the bar owner warned him that he would regret touching her, as someone important intends to adopt her in the future. The customer mocked her for looking like a machine and having no feelings. She told him that she was pretending to be tough and deliberately hit her hard to make her cry, but she remembered when Eve gave her a little leopard doll and told her to be strong. But the innkeeper continued to humiliate her, making her feel pathetic, until Eve stormed into the tavern and kicked her away and said she would take Lisbeth. And when she put her hand on her sword sheath, the innkeeper knelt before her and begged her to forgive her and told her that Zuan had ordered her to be cruel to her and promised she would not tell anyone where they were going next. She told her to tell them that she was going south to look for Lisbeth after her sudden disappearance. As they left, Lisbeth was horrified to see Tuka wearing a mask. After they left, he approached the innkeeper and told her that her ridiculous act would not fool him like it did did Eve. He decided to get rid of her after she reminded him of his painful past with Lisbeth. He cast paralysis, poison, and darkness on her all at once and thought to make it look like she was the victim of a robbery by stabbing her with a knife. He then met up with the others and began their journey to the land of monsters. He decided to reveal his true identity and told Eve his name and Sarah's name. He warned Lisbeth that they were about to embark on a journey where they could lose their lives, but she didn't care about the danger as long as she was with Eve. Eve asked him why he wanted to meet the sorceress, and he told her about the scroll of magic that he couldn't decipher. She was relieved that he had no intention of harming her and decided to give him her loyalty. When he marveled at her sudden trust in him, she said that he had many brutal ways to get information from her, but he chose peace, which shows that he is a good person. Saras wondered if it would be okay to take a young girl along for the ride, and Tuka swore to protect her at all costs. He also wanted to include them in their group, as Eve had extensive experience in the land of monsters and had some connection to the sorceress, and Lisbeth was of the same species as the sorceress, according to rumors of her being a dark elf. After a while, they found themselves being chased, and Tuka wondered how the mercenaries knew where they were. Eve remembered when Muaji met her in the hallway and realized that they knew where they were because of her, so she asked Tuka to take Lisbeth and leave her, but he decided to set traps for them in advance and fight alongside her. Then they tied flares on the horses' backs and let them go to attract the attention of the first wave of chasers and catch up with them. Tuka orders Eve and Lisbeth to hide in the woods and tells them that he needs Saras for now to carry out his plan. Finding Muaji to be highly intelligent, he whispers to Saras to tell her what to do. When Eve asks him about his plan, he tells her that he intends to lure the second wave of pursuers to a place where they can defeat them. Saras goes to lure Muaji into the forest, but he soon realizes that a trap has been set for his people. When she appears to him in disguise, he offers to turn Eve and Lisbeth over to him in exchange for her pardon and joining his Ascent group, and if she refuses, he will make her suffer to death from his curses as he did with the 5 horsemen. Saras feigned ignorance and found him talking about his defeat of the 5 horsemen as if he really did it. She decided to lure him by agreeing to his demands in exchange for his promise to guarantee Eve and Lisbeth's safety. When she asked them to follow her into the forest, Muaji realized she was trying to lure them with her words and told his followers to be prepared for any attack that might occur. Saras found that the Ascent were using an advanced form of poison on their arrows for their curses after they replaced the mercenary guild after it was wiped out by a hero from another world. Muaji told her that the death of the knights was the perfect opportunity for them to strengthen people's faith in their curses. She asked him what he was after to prove his power, and he told her that he wanted to use the Duke to create a major role for Ascent in the country so that he could control it completely. When Saras denied that anyone was with her, he didn't believe that she had decided to face them alone and suspected that someone was hiding around. Then Saras decided to reveal her identity and told him that she was one of those who fought the 5 horsemen, but Muaji was not convinced that she could defeat them alone, not believing that she could defeat the most powerful man in humanity, Sivit. He then brought out his most powerful follower and told her that he was Bilger, the last opponent Eve would ever face, as he and his brother Verigen are the 2 most powerful brothers in Ashen, and Saras found herself surrounded on all sides as Muaji confidently contemplated what he intended to do to her. Saras decided to go along with him and kneel in front of him until Tuka decided to carry out his attack on them and paralyze them before they realized it through Pigimaru. Then he appeared to them and told Muaji that he had managed to crush his followers while he was babbling and he was now the prey. Tuka then cast a poison spell on him and told him that he deliberately forced him not to enter the forest through the broken branch so that they would all be within range of his attacks in the outer courtyard. Muaji and his followers soon collapsed from the large dose of poison they received and ended up dead. Tuka asked Saras to return to the others and inform them of the situation. When he realizes that the first wave of pursuers are on their way, he decides to set a trap for them on a larger scale. When he wants to reunite with Pigimaru again, he finds that he suffers a decrease in strength due to his fusion with his body. Eve goes to him and offers to help him. He asks her if she can determine the number of soldiers in the first wave, which she can do with her tiger abilities. As they approach her and think they caught her, Tuka appears out of nowhere and immobilizes them. He vowed to take her life and force Lisbeth to wear her tiger mask while serving customers. When Tuka wanted to use his paralyzing ability on them, he realized that there was a limit to the number of targets he could use his ability on. Eve took the opportunity to attack the remaining Duke's knights and eliminate them, causing Zuan to become enraged and vow not to let them escape. Eve turned to his remaining followers and continued to tear them apart with her sword until only Zuan was left. He decided to retreat and promised that he would make sure that they would receive a cruel end in the future, but Tuka paralyzed him before he escaped and ended up dying at the hands of Eve with a single stroke of her sword. Tuka then decided to dispose of Ashen's corpses without a trace through his freezing ability in order to fake the death of the Duke's soldiers and reinforce the lie of their defeat of the 5 knights, and after freezing them all, he crushed their bodies with his axe into crumbs. Jin was shocked by the news of the disappearance of the entire Ashen group and felt he was in a quandary because he didn't know how to explain it to Vicious, so he ordered his followers to find the Ascent group at any cost, while Tuca and the rest use a cave as a shelter until morning. Then Tuca and Saras sat guarding Eve and Lisbeth while they slept. He was curious to touch Sarah's elf ear. When he touched it, he felt a strange, unfamiliar sensation until she began to feel embarrassed. She then asked him if he had any special feelings for Eve or Lisbeth, and he told her that Eve is a bit like his uncle, as his aunt and uncle are the only reason he wants to return to his home world, while Lisbeth thinks that she is very much like him, as he was a weak person like her in the past. He then tells her that she can lead him on his journey of revenge, as he is not a good person and does not intend to save the world and only seeks revenge on the goddess Alien. She tells him that she does not intend to leave as she has her own opinions about Vicious. He decided to reward her by fulfilling just one request, no matter what, and told her to think about it until that day, and when she fell asleep, he sat guarding the three of them all night, and on the other side, Ayaka was practicing sword training with Niantin, and they agreed to keep their training together a secret between them. Ayaka was curious as to why Niantin had agreed to help her in secret, and Niantin told her that she was much like her younger sister and could fall prey to intrigue and violence if she was weaker than her opponents. The next morning, Tuca bought a new dress for Lisbeth to continue their journey. Then Saras suggested that they think of a name for their group, and she suggested Soldiers of the Lord of the Flies. Tuca noticed a giant rotten tree, and Eve asked him to put some magic in her right hand, and when he did, he found that she had the ability to track targets through her ability that she inherited from her tribe, and they were able to locate a taboo sorceress in the area. At night, Tuca thought about whether he was right about the idea of revenge against the goddess, or if he was just a disgraceful fool, and found that the flame of revenge within him was not fading with the passage of time, and vowed to make her see hell with her own eyes, and decided to use his presence in the land of monsters to upgrade his skills and stats to close the gap between him and the S-ranked heroes. The next day, Goddess Vicious admired the level of the heroes and their determination to improve their stats, but told them that they still lacked technique and combat skills, and decided to bring the best knights from all countries to train them, since their battle with the Demon King's empire may exceed expectations. Then told Niantin that they should continue to train the heroes and raise their level, since she plans to send them to the land of monsters in the future. On the other hand, Lisbeth decided to carry the luggage alone to relieve the others and give them the opportunity and space to prepare for any sudden attack on their way. And while they were on their way to the designated place, they found a monster near them, so they hid in the grass. Then Eve tried to confront it with her sword, but she could not penetrate its solid body, so Tuca eliminated it with his abilities. After they finished the first stage of facing the monsters, Tuca realized that they were weak compared to the monsters she encountered in the ruins, and when they examined the art book, they found that the monster they defeated was the creator of a forbidden tool, a stone that changes the voice of the Lord of the Flies mask wearer, so he decided to give the stone to Saras without hesitation. When they continued their journey, Tuca deliberately left Lisbeth to fend for herself and crossed to the other side by the small stones on the river. When she almost fell, he used Piggymaru to catch her. When she reached them, she asked what they were talking about. Eve told her they were guessing what kind of child would come from Tuca and Saras mating, and Saras was crossing to the other side and slipped when she heard that. After that, he decided to give her his coat so she wouldn't catch a cold. As they continued on their way, Eve stopped after sensing the presence of a number of powerful monsters and told Tuca that she couldn't defeat them. He realized that they were probably the monsters that had forced her and Lisbeth to flee in the past, so he decided to retreat while he analyzed the monsters' power. When he saw them approaching, he got excited and immobilized them, then used the rampage ability and made them bleed from every part of their bodies and continued to watch them suffer to death. Then he approached the corpses and started collecting the slime on the surface of their bodies to make a strengthening solution for Piggymaru later on. Eve and Sarah's sensors were not picking up any movement, and they all braced themselves for any sudden movement, but Piggymaru noticed that the source of the danger was coming from Tuca's bag and realized that the egg in his possession was about to hatch. After the egg was fully hatched, a small white horse emerged from the egg, and Tuca noticed that it had grown in size. None of them could determine whether the horse was an enemy or an ally, so they continued to observe it until they were sure that it had no hostile feelings towards them. Tuca realizes that he may have gotten bigger by absorbing the magic around him and decides to give him a larger amount of his own magic. To their surprise, he turns into a large black horse, large enough to carry luggage. Tuca found that the horse still wanted to get more magic even though it had already consumed 1,000 points of Tuca's magic, but Tuca didn't mind giving it more until it reached 10,000 points, and then the horse turned into a majestic form and became like a giant monster. Tuca decided to name him Sleipnir after the horse that Odin rode in the Scandinavian civilization, being a fictional 8-legged horse with a majestic appearance. Meanwhile, the heroes of the other world in the forest were eliminating weak monsters in exchange for some experience points, which made Takuto upset about the officials' disregard for them and decided to teach him a lesson and show them who he is. In the evening, Ajito, one of the heroes' trainers, thought that they might have pushed them too far after sensing that someone was nearby and told them to retreat while the sword tigers dealt with the enemy. At that time, a group of monsters appeared that Tuka had already crushed, and when they managed to eliminate some of them, Agito noticed that a group of monsters had changed course to target the students, so Abyss decided to take care of them, but Takuto beat her to it and managed to burn a large group of them thanks to his unique skill, and boasted in front of everyone about his strength. Meanwhile, Tuka and his companions were staying in a nearby cave and found that thanks to the Slipnir, they were moving faster than usual and would be able to reach the taboo sorceress in no time. Then he noticed a strange light on the horizon, and when he saw that the light was coming from a northeasterly direction, he realized that it was coming from the direction of Alien, where his arch nemesis Vicious lived. When they went outside, they found him sitting amidst some monster corpses. He told them that he had sensed their presence while they were sleeping and decided to take matters into his own hands and not disturb them, leaving Eve unable to grasp the extent of his power, while Saras felt that he was a ray of hope in the nightmare of Monsterland and that he could make the impossible possible. Toka decides to take a shortcut and tells them that they need to get as far as they can before it rains. Tuka was curious to ask Lisbeth if she thought Monsterland was a scary place, and she replied that she felt everything was fine because according to Saras, as long as he was alive, they would be able to reach their destination safely, and Tuka realized that they all trusted him implicitly, and he decided not to betray that trust no matter what. Then they reached the entrance to the ruins, which meant that they were finally approaching the sorcerer's place, and Eve felt grateful that she would be able to live with Lisbeth in a peaceful land away from wars, but soon they were surprised when a suspicious entity appeared out of nowhere right behind Eve, and with her quick reaction she was able to kill it in one fell swoop. Although the monster is now dead, Tuka marvels at the acute anxiety he felt the moment it appeared. Then they were surprised when the monster let out a loud scream that lasted for several seconds, and Tuka realized that he had summoned an army of monsters before his death and that it was only a matter of time before they were surrounded from all sides. Eve decides to sacrifice herself and play the role of bait to buy time for the others to escape and reach the sorceress. She says that what is happening now is the result of her recklessness and that she has to take responsibility for it alone. He then told her that she shouldn't feel bad about her decision to kill the monster since none of them had noticed it before it appeared in front of them, and that he should have used the immobilization skill as soon as he saw it, and decided to take the responsibility with her since he had the best chance of surviving. He then prepared to face the swarm of monsters with Slipnir and Pigimaru, and told them that this team would be able to stop the monsters, and told them to precede him to where the sorceress is as he does not intend to sacrifice anyone in the group, and told Saras that he would leave the rest on her in case he could not return. Meanwhile, the sword tigers prepared for any incoming monster attack and ordered the students to evacuate the place immediately, with Ayaka protecting everyone while the A and S ranks tried to eliminate as many monsters as they could, though Takuto felt that they were no match for this type of monster and were only obstacles in their way. Tuka, on the other hand, sensed the approach of the monsters, so he strengthened Slipnir's power by giving him more magical power and decided to leave it to Pigimaru to initiate the attack, and then made him use his power in the sound stone inside his mask to emit a high frequency of screams towards the monsters to provoke them further and force them to chase after him. Although Tuka was pretending to be strong all the time in front of everyone, inside he was worried that he might die in this battle due to the strength of the human-faced monsters, and asked Pigimaru and Slipnir to lend him their full strength in order to protect his comrades. Ayaka, on the other hand, was surprised that 2 students from Tomohiro's group had died, but he seemed indifferent to them, believing that the safety of high-ranking heroes like himself should be prioritized and blaming them for the failure of their survival. Ayaka is furious and tells him that he should have used his power to protect his teammates, and because he knows she's right, he rushes over to her and tells her to shut her mouth, telling her not to act like she's better than him and to stop being so condescending. Then he added that he was able to stay alive because of his strength, not because his teammates died because they were weak, and that they deserved to die because they were the first to make fun of Tuka when he was exiled to the ruins. Takuto interrupts him and calls him a nobody for his reaction to their deaths, and tells him that he has to prove that he's the best if he wants to earn everyone's respect, then points his sword at him and tells him that what makes him a nobody is that he lost his mind in front of Ayaka's words and that he has power beyond his true stature. Tomohiro points at Ayaka and tells him that she hasn't learned her unique skill yet, even though there are others who have been able to activate their skills who are lower than her, which means that rank doesn't determine whether or not someone is powerful or not. Then calls Takuto a real nobody for thinking he's better than them just because he's an S rank. Takuto turns to Ayaka and tells her that he may have to admit that she's getting in their way because she lacks the skills to fight. Ayaka gets frustrated and soon realizes that Kobato isn't around. Eve, on the other hand, wants to catch up with Tuka since he's not in the best shape to take on the monster army on his own since he hasn't gotten enough sleep since they arrived in Monsterland, and adds that she has enough skills to give her an advantage against the monsters. She then told Lisbeth to listen to what Saras said until she returned, apologized to her, and promised to return with Tuka alive. Meanwhile, Tuka began attacking the monsters with Pigimaru and succeeded in making making them attack each other with the rampage spell, while on a group of them he used the paralyzing ability and found that his attacks only gave him a few seconds due to their adaptation to his spells. As time passed, he began to feel that the rain was blocking his vision and he couldn't feel the movement of the monsters behind him due to the low sound, and his body's union with Piggymaru would only last 10 minutes. So he decided to go back to the starting point and started running towards them, and when he was surrounded from all sides, he used his spells on them all until he had very little magic energy left. After that, he reached the appropriate distance between him and the monsters, and then he used his remaining stats to eliminate them in order to gain experience points and level up, and he succeeded in raising his stats and restoring them completely, and then he continued to eliminate monsters and gain more experience. But soon he found two huge monsters chasing him, so he dodged them until they were right in front of him. Then he used Piggymaru to immobilize them in Rampage, and he succeeded in crushing them and raising his level again, but the monsters continued to increase until he ended up falling from the top of the Slipnir, so he had no choice but to continue using his spells while standing on his feet and kept eliminating the monsters around him one by one. On the other side, Kobedo was sitting alone, clutching her sword, feeling scared and sure that it was only a matter of time before she died, when Eve appeared in front of her and wondered why she was alone in the depths of the forest. Then she approached her and felt that she looked very much like Lisbeth. When she tried to put her hand on her, she was struck by Itsuki's ability and could no longer speak. She soon realized that these two girls were among the heroes summoned by Vicious to defeat the forces of evil. Eve and Itsuki start fighting, and she wonders if she can move after receiving 2 stuns, but she continues to attack her until she is about to knock her out. But her sister Hijiri stops her as she realizes that Eve is not a monster and her behavior is different from the rest of the creatures in the forest. Then she approached her and apologized for the trouble Itsuki had caused. Then Itsuki followed her, feeling embarrassed for rushing to attack her. Eve realized that Hijiri is rational and cautious at the same time, and the three of them remind her of Tuka for some reason. Hijiri then introduces herself and tells her that she heard rumors recently about the disappearance of a tiger blood sport warrior, and when she asks her if she's looking for someone, she tells her that she's looking for her master. Hijiri realized that her master would be able to survive the monster attack on his own and quietly left Eve to continue her search for him. Meanwhile, Tuka had taken down a huge number of monsters, and although he still had many magic points, he felt that his followers had reached their limits. Then he found that he had reached a level higher than 2000, but his wounds and magic points were not healing, and he began to feel weak. Then he realized that there was only one monster left, but it was hiding somewhere around him, and he guessed that the monster had figured out his weakness. Then the human-faced monster appeared and rushed towards him. He decided to attack it, but before he could cast his spell, the monster attacked him and managed to hit him with one of its lasers, and Slipnir was hit by a blow that made him stumble and fall to the ground. Tuka felt that it was only a matter of time before he was finished, so he asked Piggymaru to do one last mission for him. Then the monster was about to carry out his last attack on him, but he was surprised by his disappearance and soon realized that Slipnir was behind him, and Tuka appeared out of nowhere, landing on him from the sky while using the paralysis and agitation spell at the same time, and succeeded in finishing him after using his mask as bait to distract him. When he checked his stats, he found that his situation was very critical. Then he leveled up and managed to activate a new skill, and when he wanted to return to his comrades after the battle, he found that his legs were in bad shape and he could not get up, but he noticed that someone was hiding behind the grass, and it turned out to be a wild beast, and when he jumped towards it to attack it, Eve appeared out of nowhere and cut it in half. Tuka ends up on Eve's shoulder with Slipnir and Piggymaru back to where the others are. He marvels at her physical strength to carry all three of them at once, and she tells him that her stamina is one of her special strengths. He was relieved and told her that she had made the right decision and that it was best for him to stay dead, as they would get in his way when it came time to take revenge on Vicious. They returned to Saras and Lisbeth, and he asked them to check on Slipnir, who had an injury to his back leg. In the evening, Eve decided to stand guard for the night, while Saras tended to Tuka's wound and sewed up his coat, though he couldn't sleep due to stress. He told her that he hadn't done that since the last time he saw his aunt, so she asked him not to take on everything alone, as she felt afraid for him whenever he decided to take responsibility for everyone on his shoulders. He patted her on the head and asked her to support him as much as possible so that he could protect them all. Then he remembered the cowardly and weak person he used to be, and that if he had stayed the same, he wouldn't have been able to get this far. After a while, Tuka fell asleep, and Saras wanted to get up without waking him, but she tripped and almost fell on top of him, but she was close to him, and she felt the urge to kiss him, but it was a quick kiss, and she regretted it just thinking about it. Tuka woke up and found Saras lying next to him, and felt that something was wrong with his lips. When he asked her if she was suffering from insomnia, he was surprised that she was apologizing to him for some reason, and decided to use a sleep spell to help her relax and realize that she had kissed him while he was sleeping. Itsuki, on the other hand, was on her way back to the rest of the heroes, and was curious to ask Kobato why she joined Asagi's group when she would have been better suited to Ayaka's group. She replied that she had to return the favor after Asagi helped her pass the goddess tests, and that she had to stay in her group despite realizing how dangerous someone like Asagi is. The next day, Tuka and his companions continued their journey to the sorceress. Saras confided in him that there was something she wanted to confess to him someday and asked him to give her some time to prepare. Inside, she decided that she had to confess her love to him, even if it meant destroying their current relationship or losing his trust. On the other hand, Tuka was sure that she would eventually confess to him, but he had to play dumb for now. After a while, they noticed a magical seal on the trees around them, and when Saras noticed that the seal looked a bit old, Tuka hoped that the sorceress was still alive. Then they found a moving stone statue in front of them, but Tuka used paralysis to stop it without destroying it so that the sorceress would not have a bad impression of them. Then they found a small house near the tree, and when they entered, they found a secret underground tunnel and found that there were many stone statues working on excavation. Then they headed towards a magical door, and Tuka gave him some of his energy to be able to open it. In the meantime, Kobato and the sisters reunited with the others. Asagi gave her a warm hug while Ayaka was relieved to be back alive. Kobato felt that she had to become stronger and stop being a shy pigeon, while Hijiri realized that she made the right decision in searching for Kobato and that the soldiers they encountered yesterday were meant to kill all the heroes from the other worlds. Tuka and his companions were amazed when they passed through the trapdoor and saw the underground sky and thought they had gone to another dimension after passing through the trapdoor, but they soon saw Elf appear at the wall of her castle and realized that she was the taboo sorceress they were finally looking for, named Erika. On the other side, Vicious ordered the summoning of the 4 saints and heroes after learning that the forces of the Demon King's empire had begun to move, and she felt confident that her heroes would be able to withstand the Demon King and stop him, while Tuka felt victorious in finding Erika and that it was time for him to have the power to fulfill his revenge and vowed to annihilate Vicious.